In this lesson, we're going to talk about story problems with adding and subtracting negatives. So when I'm solving story problems, the first thing I want to do is read through the problem, or read the problem. Then I want to read it again and highlight important information. So I'm going to put highlight, that has a T in it, important information. Now, along with highlighting, I want to start to try to interpret it mathematically. So what is it? Interpret the info mathematically. Then we're going to build an equation, then solve the equation. So in 4, I want to build the equation, or build an equation, or maybe an expression. And then I want to solve it and see if it's reasonable. So as I'm reading through this first question, I'm just going to read it in example 1. If you go out to the movies and have $40 at the start, you spend $20 in tickets and then spend $14.50 on food and drinks, how much money do you have left? Write an equation to represent the situation. So now as I'm reading it, there are certain things that strike out to me. I have $40 at the start, so I'm going to just highlight that. Then I spend $20. And then I spend $14.50. And then, it's kind of important here, I'm going to choose a different color. How much money do I have left? That's what I want to know. How much money do I have left? So I've read through, I've got the important information highlighted. So now $40 at the start, to me that seems like 40 bucks. Now if I'm spending money, I'm taking it away. So as I'm building my equation here, I've got to subtract 20 because I'm spending money. Every time I spend money, I have less than I had before. And then I spend $14.50 on food. Now how much do I have left? Well, that's going to be kind of equal to my blank space. So there I've got my equation. Now I need to solve it. So as we're going through and solving expressions here, we just have subtraction to do. So we need to subtract from left to right. 40, take away 20. You might not need scratch paper for this, and that's okay. It's 20 bucks. So these two, 40 minus 20 is $20, and I've got $20 minus $14.50. So I'm going to put the 20, and I'm going to put the 2 zeros. Since I've got $14.50, I have to take away from it. Now 0 minus 0, we're good there. 0 take away 5. Now I've got to borrow. So this becomes a 1, a 10, which goes to 9, and then a 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. 9 take away 4 is 5. 1 minus 1, 0. So this is $5.50. I guess I should have my blank space there. So I have $5.50 left. Now it seems to make sense. That's a pretty reasonable answer. I'm going to scroll down to practice 2, and I'd like you to pause this and try practice 2 now. Alright. Now I'm going to read through the problem and then try to highlight the important information. So if you go out to the movies and spend $80, if you go out to the movies and have $80 at the start, you spend $15 on tickets, this time you go to a matinee, then you spend $26.50 on food and drinks. How much money do you have left? Write an equation to represent the situation. So I'm going to highlight $80 at the start. We spend $15, and then we spend $26.50. Now we want to know, how much do you have left? So I'm going to build an equation here. Now the $80 we have at the beginning seems like it's going to be 80 bucks. Now if I spend money, I'm going to be subtracting that away from how much I have. Then I spend another $26.50, catch the early show and have to buy lunch. How much money do I have left? Well, that's going to be equal to my blank space. That's what I'm trying to find. I had 80, spent 15, spent another $26.50. How much do I have left? So now as I'm solving this again, 80 minus 15, well, I've got to borrow 10 take away 5 is 5, 7. So this is $65 minus the $26.50. That's going to be my new blank space. So now I've got $65. I'm going to add the zeros after the decimal because I'm going to take away $26.50, and I got to line up the decimals. I have to borrow here for making that a 10. Oops. 0, 5. Borrow again, 5 and 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. 5 minus 2 is 3. I've got $38.50 left. $38.50 is my blank space. I have, or you have, $38.50 left. Now I'm going to look at example 2. In example 2, you and a couple friends head to the grocery store to grab some fruit. If you buy 5 apples, your friend Chris gets 2 apples, and Tony gets 3 apples. How many apples do you have altogether? Write and solve an equation to represent this situation. So we're heading to the store. You've got 5 apples. Chris gets 2 apples, and Tony gets 3 apples. And we want to know how many apples do we have altogether. So 5 apples, well, it seems like it should be 5. That's for you. Your friend Chris gets 2. Now if he gets 2 more apples, you're going to have 2 more. 2 more is going to be plus 2. And Tony gets 3, so that's 3 more, so plus 3. That's going to be equal to the blank space, the number of apples we have. Now we have all addition here, so we're just going to add left to right. 5 and 2 is 7. 7 and 3 will be our total. 7 and 3 is 10. So 10 is our blank space. And we have 10 apples altogether. And so in this situation, we're just adding the numbers up. I want you to pause this and try practice 2. Now I'm going to work through the solution for practice 2. You and a couple friends head to the grocery store to grab some fruit. If you buy 3 oranges and your friend Jerry gets 16 oranges and Manuel gets 3 oranges, how many oranges do you have altogether? Write and solve an equation to represent this situation. So I'm going to highlight the important stuff. You buy 3 oranges, Jerry gets another 16, and Manuel gets 3. So now as I build my equation, I'm going to start out with the 3 I have. I'm going to say that's 3. If Jerry gets 16, he's going to add 16 to it. And Manuel gets 3 more, he's going to add 3. That's going to be equal to our total, our blank space. So now we have our equation, now we just need to solve it. We have all addition here, so we're just going to add left to right. 3 and 16 is 19. 19 and 3 is going to be our blank. 19 and 3 is 22. So 22 is our blank. So we have 22 oranges. I'm going to look at example 3. In example 3, it says, you head out to dinner with friends and realize you only have $2. You spend $1 getting some cheap fries on dinner. Later you realize that you owe 3 of your friends $7 each. Write an equation to represent the situation. Write your answer as a negative number if you owe money. So now I'm going to go through this and highlight the important information. So you head out to dinner with your friends and you realize you only have $2. So you have only $2. You spend $1 of it. Alright? Cheap dinner. You owe 3 friends. So if we owe 3 friends, we're going to have to be paying them money, $7 each. Now we want to write an equation to represent the situation, and then we're going to write our answer as a negative if we owe money. So since we started out with $2, I'm going to just write that firstly. We've got $2 here, and we spend $1 getting the cheapest dinner we can. So if I spend $1, I've got to take away $1 from that. Now I realize I owe 3 friends $7 each. So this is kind of interesting. We got a couple ways we can think about it. If you owe a friend $7, you could subtract 7 3 times. So I subtract 7 for one friend, the second friend, and the third friend. So this is my first friend, my second, and my third. This is one way to look at it. This would be equal to my blank space. And now here we had $2, we spent money, and we owe, and we owe, and we owe. And so that's why we're always subtracting that money. Now, another way to look at it is you could say, okay, you had $2 at the start, you subtracted 1, and then now I've got a situation where I've got 3 friends, and I owe them all $7. So I'm adding to this situation 3 friends, and since I owe them money, I'm saying it's times -7. So you could use a multiplication dot there or that. So this is the same type of expression up here. We subtract $7 and $7 and $7. We can also write that as 3 times -7. So I'm going to just do the multiplication as change it up. So this is a second equation for it, and I'm going to solve that one. So now, in this case, I've got parentheses, but they're just there to indicate we're multiplying. So our other operations are addition and subtraction, so we have to multiply first when we're solving. So this is going to be 2 minus 1 plus 3 times -7 is -21. That's equal to our blank space. And now we add and subtract left to right. So I've got 2, take away 1. Well, that's 1. 1 plus a -21 is my blank space. 1 plus a -21 is going to be, well, if I have 1 and I owe 21, I'm going to end up just owing 20. So that's my blank space. My final answer is going to be -20. I'm going to owe $20. Now if I solve this first equation, maybe you don't believe me, 2 take away 1 minus 7 minus 7 minus 7, that's equal to the blank space. So this one, since we have all subtraction, we just go from left to right. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 7 minus 7 minus 7. 1 take away 7 is -6. Then -6 minus 7 is -13 minus another 7. So that's -20 is equal to the blank space. And so if you do it with just the repeated subtraction, you're going to end up with the same equation. One of them is a little bit more intuitive and one's a little bit more mathematically rigorous, but they're both correct. So in the end, we've got an equation, we solved it, we owe $20. Why don't you pause this and try practice 3 now. Alright, practice 3 is a little bit different here. You spend $30 on a haircut. You had $50 at the beginning of the day. You realize that you owe 5 friends $8 each. Write an equation to represent the situation. Write your answer as a negative number if you owe money. So you spend $30. You had $50 at the beginning of the day. You realize you owe 5 friends $8. Now we need to write an equation to represent the situation. So first the equation, and then we're going to solve it. I'm going to give myself just a little bit more room here. So if we spend $30 on a haircut and we had $50 at the beginning of the day, I'm going to start out with how much money I have at the beginning of the day, $50. So I have $50 and I spend 30 of it on my haircut. Now I've got 50 and I've spent 30. Seems to be good. You realize you owe 5 friends $8 each. So now I've got a situation. I'm going to add 5 times -8. It's a -8 because we owe them money. If they owed us money, we'd be adding money to our account, but since we owe them money, we're going to be losing it. That's why it needs to be negative. This is going to be equal to kind of our balance, whatever we have at the end of the day. So now I've got 5 minus 30 plus 5 times -8. So when I'm solving this equation, I've got to do this multiplication first. So 5 times negative a is going to be negative 40, and I'll just have 50 minus 30 plus negative 40. So now I've got addition and subtraction, so I just have to go left to right. 50 minus 30 is $20. Now I've got $20 plus the negative 40. That's going to equal my balance at the end of the day. Now 20 plus negative 40, well, I'm going to be negative because I owe a lot more than I have. 40 minus 20 is how much I'm going to owe. 4 minus 2 is 20, so negative $20. My answer is negative $20. If I write it as a number, it's negative 20. If I had money at the end of the day, it'd end up being a positive number. Well, this concludes our lesson with story problems and adding and subtracting negative numbers. Thank you for your time.